Deion Sanders is making a major change to his team this year. What is it? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Joining me today, former Colorado defensive lineman, pass rusher, quarterback chaser, quarterback sacker, if you will. You had quite a few sacks in your career. Jordan Domineck. Jordan, I appreciate you hopping on. Jordan is going to educate the folks, right? He's here to educate us all, non-ball knowers, all you casuals, if you will. Jordan, we're talking some X's and O's, right? Colorado is changing the scheme. Last year, they really played to their strengths, which is, and I like this about Robert Livingston. He came in and said, hey, don't have a playbook. We're going to figure out what we're good at, and we're going to change. And he's doing the same thing this year. And he said that they're going to change to an NFL-style defensive scheme. So walk me through what that means, like schematics-wise, like what does that look like, and what does that mean responsibility-wise for each unit?
So first off, the first thing I want to say, the defensive coordinator, I love him. I love the way he comes in and approaches the game. He's not a you're going to fit into this defense kind of guy. He's a man that's going to assess the situation, assess the kind of talent that he has, and he's going to build a defense with that talent that he has, which was evident last year with the improvements of the defense. They might not have the biggest defensive line, but they definitely had more disruptions in the backfield. They had more of a fire and a passion coming in, and that was more so the defensive coaches putting their players in the right positions. When he says he's going to come with a more NFL playbook, NFL mindset, I feel like it's more going to be depending on what they choose. So say if they were to go into a 4-3, I feel like they would have more disguises on the back end, so the offense wouldn't be able to tell the coverages that they're in. I feel like the linebackers would have more responsibilities on, guarding players in the slot, as well as being able to just move across the line, I feel like they'd be able to call their own defense, so to speak. I feel like he wants his linebackers to have the mentality of being in there, studying the playbook, understanding the defense, and being able to adjust accordingly based on what they see. I also feel like that he's going to have the outside linebacker. The position I played is going to be a more in-depth role when it comes to dropping back into coverage and playing in the coverage of the defense. They have those two Alabama linemen that we were talking about before we hopped on air. I do like those. They need some big guys in the middle. So I feel like they're definitely going to create a scheme around them where they might even go 3 down in the, longer situations, passing situations. They could go with a 3 down, drop that linebacker, or bring a nickel onto the field, have him play as an extra DB. So they're ending up dropping 8. I definitely do love the way that he has approached this year, especially from what I'm seeing in the videos and everything that I'm watching. I always follow the Buffs. I stay locked on the Buffs. We locked on them. So got to make sure we know exactly what's going on. And from what I'm seeing, the defense is definitely taking a few approaches towards that kind of mentality. The NFL style defense, I feel like, is more hands-on, more aggressive, more blitzes, more coverages, more defensive schemes. I feel like they're going to have different kind of blitzes, different kind of run games. Um, they'll be able to do defensive lineman stunt both in the run and passing situations. And I feel like at the end of this season, we're going to see like a completely different defense than we did these past few years, especially with the defensive coordinator and what he's doing. He's probably still, they're in the middle of camp right now. So he's probably definitely still assessing what he has and building his defensive scheme up with the thought of what each player can do in mind. So we will definitely see them grow from week 1 to week 3 to week 5. It's definitely going to be improvements among the defense. And it might be a tough watch at first, but that's any team. But I definitely have faith in this Colorado defense this year. They're going to make some plays. They're going to make things happen. They have a lot of talent that they brought in, and I'm excited for them.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we talked about a little bit is Robert Livingston does well is he doesn't like try to shove a square into a circle. Like if there's a defense where it's like, you know what, this is what I run. This is my specialty as a coach. It's like, well, guess what? We don't have those guys. Maybe we have not as big of guys, or maybe we have more pass rushers than that defense allows, right? So he's very versatile in that sense. During your career, you bounced around and got the opportunity to play under different schemes. Talk to me about what that experience is like. What is it like learning a new defense? What is the most important thing? Just the mindset that you need to attack it with.
So when you're learning a new defense, it's always important to understand that the main thing you need to be in is the playbook. You have to understand the defensive schemes. You have to understand what your responsibilities are. As
Mhm.
long as you know your responsibilities, especially at my position, there wasn't too much. If I was running a 4-3, I would be a little bit into the uh, dropping back into the back end. So when I was at Georgia Tech, I was in that 4-3 and I was working towards the flats or the hook curl area. Um, just as an outside linebacker dropping back. Nothing too crazy, but you do have to know your responsibilities. You do have to understand the scheme that you are in. Um, Adapting to different play styles and different coaches, it depends on especially what that coach wants from that defense. Is the coach rigid? Is that this is the defense we're going to run and you're going to have to fit into it? Or is the coach lenient? Does he assess his players like Livingston? Does he assess his players and scheme the defense up to be exactly what it needs to be for those players? You know, does he fit the defense well to the players? And the places I've been, I've played in a 3-4 defense. I've played in a 4-eye. I've played in a 3. I've played in a 2 at some points. You know, passing situations when I was at Georgia Tech. So there are a lot of different schemes, a lot of different defenses, a lot of different mentalities when it comes to coaching a defense. A lot of coaches coach a different way, and the main thing that you need to know is keep your mind open, but also study the playbook. You might go to different places and they might run a 4-3, but it could be a 4-3 that's a different scheme. You might have a nickel in there instead of an extra linebacker, and you might be a true defensive lineman moving forward. Or you could be an edge rusher that could also play into the coverage game. You could have a 4-2 defense with a 6-man back end, or not a 6-man back, a 5-man back end with a nickel in. You know, it's all just depends on exactly what's going on, what the coach wants, and just being able to understand the situation that you're in. The main thing that anybody really needs to know is study your playbook, study your responsibilities, because if you want to play, you have to know what those are. And based on where I was at, so when I was at Georgia Tech, I was in the 4-3, and then we switched up to a 3-4 while I was there. And I went to Arkansas, and we also ran a 4-3 that ended up into a 3-4 at the end of the season. And going to uh, Colorado, my bad. Going to Colorado, I was over here trying to think of all the names. I'm like, Jesus, I'm playing so many places. I'm playing in so many places. But at Colorado, we were running a 4-3, and we would possibly go into a 3-4 in passing situations when we knew that it was a longer distance. We could drop 8 in the coverage and get after the quarterback with 3. And so it's really going to depend on
Mhm.
where, like, down and distance, it's all just so much fundamentally when it comes to football. So knowing the scheme, whether it's a 4-3, whether it's a 3-4, whether you're an edge rusher, whether you're a drop back passer, it depends. It doesn't, well, no, it doesn't depend. When you are in that scheme, you have to understand the responsibility of that scheme to actually be able to play the game, to be able to run that scheme to perfection. Some coaches are more blitz heavy, you know, in a 4-3 where they'll send linebackers and they'll send 5 or 6 at a time. You know, some will send the house. Others, they're more conservative. They'll try to run a 4-man line and have the defensive line react to the kind of blocks that you're getting. You could also play an aggressive defense where you're attacking, shedding, and get to the ball, or you're playing a reactive defense where you're watching the offensive lineman move and then you work off of them. And that just all depends on, like I said, it circles back to the defensive coordinator. What does he want? What kind of play style does he have? So when it comes to really adapting to different situations and different defenses, you have to, one, know the defense, and two, know your defensive coordinator as well. You have to know exactly what he wants, and from there, you'll be able to branch out and make the plays that you want to make, as long as you make them within the scheme of the defense,
No, interesting. Because
so to speak. A lot of words right there, you know.
no, I like that insight though, because I think when the average person thinks of football, it's like if you just make plays, like it'll happen, it'll be fine, right? But like if it's like say your job is a contain
Yeah,
and you break contain to, I don't know, maybe you're trying to do something a little extra, right? Like you saw something that maybe you saw a tendency in that quarterback or you saw a tendency in that running back, and it's like, well, that wasn't your job, right?
yeah,
So you need to do your job, and I think that's the important part because Coach Prime, and I don't think a lot of people knew this, and I'm not trying to single anyone out, so I won't name him. But during, I believe it was, I want to say, well, he's only been there for 2 years. So during your year, there
hmm
was a certain individual not watching film, and you guys have tablets that he could track your film log or your film hours on.
Yes.
Were you guys aware of the film hour tracking ability, and did that make you watch more film, or like what is that vibe? Like, does that
Okay,
encourage you or
so
scare
I actually have a funny story about that while
you?
I
Yeah.
was there at Colorado.
Mhm.
So we did know about the tracking thing. He brought it
Okay.
up literally every week. He made sure
Oh,
everybody knew, look, you have to be in there tracking. What I would do, I wouldn't use my iPad. So I would go into the coach's office and I would use Coach Nick's computer because he had all the coach's notes and everything from there.
okay.
And I would just by myself just be in there watching the film, just
Mhm.
go through what Coach Nick had to say, before meetings. And so the one week, I believe it was Arizona State that this happened actually. He came in and put up all the listings on the board of like the times for everybody.
Mhm.
And on my iPad, it actually said like 45 minutes. And so I'm like, oh Lord, like I didn't only watch 45 minutes, but like
Yeah.
I'll usually be in the coach's office. And so, when there's like that's what happens. That's what happens,
Yeah.
And he had to make an example of people. So the people that had less than a certain amount of time, they weren't the starters for that game. And I ended up not starting the Arizona State game because I didn't have that log on my iPad.
Interesting.
Which, I mean, you can argue the point, but like the data's
You
there.
can't argue the
You
point.
can't argue the point. Like the data's there. Like I could have had my iPad out. I was, in the coach's office, so I ended up, started watching at home as well as the coach's office. But it's just the thing to show like coaches do not play about watching that film. Your film study is definitely taken into account for being able to play. A few people actually didn't play again. Not didn't play, but didn't start that Arizona State game because they weren't watching film.
Hmm.
Film is definitely a huge thing if you want to get on the field. That's something that a lot of people take for granted. A lot of people don't really, you know,
Yeah.
take care of. And Coach Prime was cracking down on it, and he made sure. And I'm pretty sure he's doing the same thing this year. I'm pretty sure he's doing the same thing next year because every time we would pull up the film study, well, you know who would be at the top of the list. We had Travis Hunter, we had Shador Sanders, we had Shiloh, all three of them every single time. We had Dylan Edwards. Dylan Edwards was making sure he was on that list, that he was always watching at least 3 to 4 hours of film a week. So I knew that a lot of people took it seriously, but a lot of people didn't. And the people that didn't, you were held accountable.
Yeah.
And the people that did, you know.
It's interesting because I think especially like someone like yourself, and I'm going to use you as an example. You watch film, obviously, but like maybe during high school, it came more naturally to you, right? Maybe everyone in high school watches film with their
Mhm.
coach during seventh period or sixth period, whatever, however periods you have. And like in high school, it's like, okay, that's good. Like we watch film on Central or we watch film on X school X, and it's like, now I'm good. Now I'm going to go out there and make plays. And like college, it's like, I mean, nowadays everyone's getting paid, so it is a job. But like, there was a time period where it was like this wasn't a job, but it had to
Yeah.
be your job, right? And I think a lot of, and I think it's one of the more under covered struggles is like people who just think it's going to be like I'm going to go out there, be the best athlete, and make plays because that doesn't always happen. So I
Mhm.
appreciate you sharing that insight there. Jordan's going to share some other insight on a run game, what that could do for an offense and what that could do for a defense. But first, a quick break. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier with Monarch Money? It can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. So you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. It's Kevin Borba. It's Jordan Domineck. Jordan, we're talking about the run game. It hasn't been something that Colorado's necessarily had. When you were on campus, Dylan Edwards, I believe, was the leading rusher, and he had about 300 and change. Last year, it was about the same thing. Isaiah Gustav no longer with the program. He had about 300 and change. And I think Colorado relied heavily on Shador Sanders. I think Shador Sanders relied heavily on Shador Sanders. As soon as we learned that he had the ability to make the checks, right? He checked into a lot of passing situations because why wouldn't you? You had 4 NFL wide receivers last year,
Yeah,
but
literally.
they had not the same wide receivers. They lost all 4 starting receivers. They have 4 new offensive linemen. new quarterback, and Pat Shurmur, the offense coordinator, is like, we're going to run the ball. We're going to be more balanced. Talk to me about what you think that'll look like and what that does to a defense, like how they have to approach it.
So first off, I'm gonna start with the run game. Back when I was there, we didn't really have too much of a run game. It really was a lot of pass first offense only because we did have Shador, we had Travis Hunter, we had Jimmy Horn, we had so many different people. We had a lot of talent out in that wide receiver core, and we honestly felt like we didn't. I wouldn't say we didn't need the run game, but I felt like I was very confident with our passing game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the running game is huge and definitely underrated in this day and age of college football. Running game is able to put you in prime position to get first downs and definitely keeps the defense on their toes. To be able to have a mix of a run and pass game is the only way that you're going to be able to have a truly elite offense. And if you're only one dimensional, then a defensive coordinator can scheme accordingly to be able to have both the run game and the pass game so that neither team, oh, not the defensive coordinator doesn't know exactly what you're going to do, especially to be able to run it out of certain sets, certain formations that might seem like a pass, but it's a run, or it might seem like a run and it's a pass. That'll definitely throw a defensive coordinator for a loop. That's where the film study comes in. And, studying Colorado the past couple of years, not the strongest in the run game, but I feel like they definitely have taken a few steps in that direction to be able to use the run. The main thing about the run is that you're going to need offensive linemen, big linemen that are not afraid to get gritty, to get their nose downhill and open up those holes for you so the running backs have a place to go. I feel like Coach Prime did a great job recruiting that last year and a better job doing that recruiting that this year. From what I've seen from the videos and everything that they've shown us, we have some big, hefty guys that know how to move, that are aggressive, that are willing to take that, and they have an attitude. And that's what you need in your offensive line. They need an attitude. They need to be able to go out there and really show like what kind of person you are when it comes to that football field.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of the run game,
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Offerdahl, I had all my money. I bet the house on him. I love my boy, the real 4-4.
Yeah.
He ended up having to retire medically due to a concussion. So he is now pursuing his passions as a job outside of football. And that's going to be a huge blow to Colorado. He had come in as a walk on. He had earned a scholarship under Coach Prime. He made it through the first cut. He made it through the second cut. He made it through everything. So to hear about that, it's bittersweet news for me because I know he's going to do great things out in the world. But I did want to go and watch him, run the ball very much. And I felt like he was going to be a huge gain for Coach Prime and everybody, especially coming up with this year. I feel like this was his year to break out. That being said, Coach Prime, my bad. That being said, Coach Prime has definitely done a great job in recruiting running backs that he believes he can come in and make an impact from day one.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a few of them, and my favorite video that's streaming right now, they posted, I believe it was a slow versus slow, and then a fast versus fast, where offensive lineman and defensive lineman ended up racing, and the defensive lineman ended up having a false start. And so Coach Prime lined up the fastest DB versus the fastest player on offense, and the offensive player was the running back we were talking about earlier. What's his name?
DeKalen Taylor.
Kalen Taylor. And he ended up absolutely like not destroying the DB, but that man can move. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's fast. They literally were talking about, oh yeah, he got SRT on his back for a reason. So that boy's named after a car. He's
There we
fast.
go. There we go.
And I am definitely excited to see what he has in store, especially with the offensive line that they brought in.
Yeah.
That run game is definitely going to be a key for them this year. You were talking about where they did lose a lot of NFL wide receivers and all that, but
Yeah.
they still have a few offensive weapons as well. They have Amari. I'm going to be hyping up Amari all year. He was a freshman 2 years ago. He's been making plays for Colorado for the past 2 years. I believe he's earned preseason honors at some point, and I feel like he is definitely going to be a huge, huge weapon for the Colorado Buffaloes. And the quarterback, they are having a good race, but I have my money on Juju. I
Okay.
have my money on Juju. I feel like he's going to be a great player for starting freshman. I feel like he's done his research into the Colorado offense. He's been making his adjustments, and I feel like he's come and taken a leadership position and a leadership role on Colorado's team.
Okay.
He's young, but he's dedicated to the game. I know Coach Prime has him in there watching film 4 to 5 hours. He was hanging out with a lot with Shador before he was able to get on campus, so I feel like he picked up a few good habits from him. And
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what he's doing. I feel like he's had a pretty good camp as well, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think you made a lot of great points there. I'm gonna circle back to the running backs just because I think it's been a weakness, honestly, for Colorado, the run game. And I
Hmm.
think they changed a multitude of things. They brought in Kalen Taylor, who he's 5'9", he's listed at 5'9", 165. So he's a smaller guy, but good luck catching him, right? I think that's
Hmm.
sort of the downside to that is like, yeah, he's small, but if you take a bad angle or if you miss, like you're not gonna there is no catching up to him. Like you will have to get him the next drive because he's that quick. And they brought him in as someone who 152 carries last season for Incarnate Word, 909 yards rushing or 9 touchdowns, 6 yards per carry. And then he also can make an impact in the punt return, kick return game. So he's someone to look out for. Dallin Hayden is a guy, I talked about him yesterday. Ohio State transfer from last year. He had an injury, got a little banged up. And I think him and the rest of the running backs struggled to get anything going because of the offensive line's issues, right? I think
Hmm.
Colorado had a very hard time getting a forward push. So that meant every time they ran the ball, the running backs were having to at least break a tackle to get to the line of scrimmage, not like get past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could attest to this. It makes life difficult for a running back when they don't have like that chance to
Anywhere to
ramp
go.
up.
They have no way to actually open up their stride when they're actually
Yeah,
being contained. They're being pushed in, definitely.
right.
And you hit it net right on the head with the offensive line. The offensive line is definitely gonna have to make improvements from the years before.
Mhm.
But like we were saying, I feel like they brought in a lot of good
Oh,
people.
yeah, they did. They
And
brought in some
to
size.
circle, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying they brought in size and strength, which is
Oh, yes.
going to be a huge, huge addition.
That's going to be a huge addition. And then I feel like they have the right mentality as offensive linemen as well. And
Mhm.
then circling back to the run game that you were saying,
Mhm.
that duo that you said with the Ohio State and
Taylor and Hayden.
yeah.
We'll go Taylor and Hayden.
The names escape me right now. I'm gonna make
Yeah,
sure
no
I
worries.
know them. I was betting, like I said, I was betting everything on Charlie. Charlie was number
Yeah, no, Charlie's number one fan here.
I'm Charlie number one fan, the real 4-4, man. I'm telling you, like, but no, I definitely feel like they're gonna have a lot of space to run this year. And you
Mhm.
were speaking on the smaller stature of the running back.
Mhm.
That is, I feel like, a defensive lineman's worst nightmare is
Oh,
to
really?
have a huge, huge line, but a
Mhm.
small running back because he can get lost in the gaps. You can't find him, especially with the beef that Colorado brought in with them now. To be
Yeah.
able to hide behind his linemen and be able to work his way through the offensive line, the defensive line won't be able to see him. That actually works both ways. And you can see that a little bit when we brought in Dylan Edwards. He was working as that as well. He was a small guy. He was working behind you know, good sized O line. He didn't
Yeah.
make much happen out of the backfield's mindset, but I feel like this year is going to be a true, like, you're going to see a truly different old offensive line versus years prior. And I feel like that's going to open up their run game, which can really mess up a defense. Because
Yeah.
if
And
you have to be able to plan, that'll really mess up the linebackers as well. Because if you're not able to both be able to see the run and distinguish between a run and a pass within a few seconds, that little that little quick twitch, he could be the running back outside. It could be a little dump off. It could be an out. Like there are so many ways that you could use a running back within the passing game and the running game.
yeah.
So being able to open that up will definitely open up the offensive playbook tenfold. And
Yeah.
that's really what's going to be able to mess with defenses.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned the difficulties of height when it comes to being a defense lineman because I it just clicked with me. Like I think Deion Sanders, for the most part, outside of Isaiah Gustav, who was 6'2", the tallest running back on the team was apparently Charlie. He's listed at 5'11". Is that accurate?
Hmm.
Is he really 5'11"?
Yeah, he's really followed up. Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
fair enough.
I
Fair
believe
enough.
it. I believe it. I believe it. I
He
believe
was
it.
the tallest running back out of the three. Mike Welch is 5'9", and then Dallin Hayden, who I mentioned earlier, is 5'10". So clearly Deion Sanders likes short, compact backs, and like you said, it probably makes it more difficult on the defensive lineman. You kind of teased it already, but we're going to talk about the quarterback battle and what's going to come down to picking a signal caller as Georgia Tech, your other alma mater. It's the Jordan Domineck Bowl, Week 1. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you don't miss out on a moment of the coverage because college football is coming up. You don't want to miss anything. Jordan, we're talking about the quarterback battle. You already gave us your prediction for why Julian Lewis will win. I'm actually going to go contrarian. I think they go Caden Salter. I think because he has the ability to run, I think they at least give him the nod first to sort of
Mhm.
help the offense find itself. Would I be shocked if Julian Lewis ends up overtaking him? No, right? I think Julian Lewis, and this is sort of my mindset with this. I don't like starting true freshmen right away just
Mhm.
because I don't want to rattle them too quickly, especially someone like Julian, which this isn't me saying I know Julian personally. This isn't me being like, I'm a sports psychologist. I'm not. I'm just talking about what we've seen in history. Like Trevor Lawrence didn't start right away. Arch Manning didn't start right away. DJ Lagway last year, he didn't start right away. Like there's been really good quarterbacks who didn't start right out of the gate and then took over when they felt like they were ready. So I think they go Caden Salter. If he does a really good job, then they don't need Juju. But if they have a reason to turn to Juju, then they have. And I like that. I also don't like throwing them out there right away. So I think they go Caden Salter to open up the run game and sort of let Juju get even more comfortable. When it comes to a quarterback battle, this is the question that everyone wants to know. Is it strictly up to the coaches, or do the players does the locker room help influence the decision?
So first thing I do want to talk about, that's a multi-headed thing. So
Yeah,
first
yeah,
off, I want to start off the Salter.
yeah.
I love the prediction. He brings a level of maturity. He brings a level of experience to the program. I feel like he would be a really good pick. Either quarterback would be a great pick to
Right.
start off that first season.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely going to come down to the battle in camp. I can understand where you're coming from with the you wouldn't want to start a true freshman and everything. Like you don't want to get them too rattled off the rip. I feel like that is a great reason to go with Salter. He has experience. He was the one that played over at Liberty. He
Mm-hmm.
had, I believe, 16 touchdowns during his career there. I
Mm-hmm.
think possibly somewhere around there. Yeah,
In
passing touchdowns.
2023, he was the Conference USA MVP. He was
Hmm.
led them to the Fiesta Bowl. Like he's got the
He's got
resume.
the resume. He's got
Yeah.
the record. I do like him. Um, I like the way he plays. He's a dual threat quarterback. He can run the ball. He can pass. He knows what he's doing in that backfield. I feel like he doesn't get too flustered at times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But I do also want to know that Julian Lewis has came in. He does look like a leader. He's been with the Colorado program for a while. It almost feels like he's been there for a year at this point, you
Yeah.
know.
He
I
did get to enroll
definitely
early for the bowl game. He was there and
it's
getting to practice. That makes a difference.
that does make a difference. It really does. And what makes it so much better for him is that he had that mentor in Shador Sanders. He understands what it's like to go through a college program or through a
Mhm.
college database. He got the wisdom from Shador to be able to be a better quarterback. And I feel like it's really, really going to come out during camp. It's going to show who is really willing to go in, who's willing to put in the extra work, who's going to be ready for that moment when the spotlight hits them.
Mhm.
And the reason I feel like I could say that Juju was going to start the season is because I feel like Coach Prime doesn't really care if you're a freshman. He doesn't care about any of that at
It's
the
true.
moment
It's
because
true.
he's looking for those dogs. He's looking for somebody that's going to come in, that's going to play, and that's going to win him games. He's looking for somebody that's going to take the helm and really run with it. And I feel like Juju's gone in and done that. I feel like he's really established himself as a leader in that program. I feel like he's established himself as an elite quarterback so far.
Mhm.
Can't really say anything until he's in the game, but from what I've
Right.
seen, based on high school film, based on what he's been doing over the bowl practices and over the summer and everything, I feel like he's really stepped into that role of leading the team. And I feel like if I see him step on that field first, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
I
Okay.
see the
Fair enough.
experience that Salter brings, but I'm always I like to take the long shot. I like
Okay.
the true freshman to come out.
I like that.
And afterwards, you were talking about the decision on picking a true quarterback.
Yes. Like, is it the
So
coach? Is it the players? Is it a combo? Are we voting on like an app?
so like there's just like a little LinkedIn. We're just gonna be
Yeah.
like, y'all come on, we're gonna get a little Kahoot going. Y'all choose your quarterback out of the four that we have, and whoever gets it. So no, it's definitely up to the coaches, but the coaches also know that a quarterback can only go so far as their team.
Mhm.
And they need somebody in that quarterback role that is going to make sure they make the right play, that is going to motivate the team. And so they watch for the interactions throughout the teammates. They watch for the interactions of the quarterbacks with the team, with the offense, with the defense. It's literally they're judging every single thing you do, from what you eat to who you're walking with, who you're hanging with, how much film do you study, are you in there, are you out of there, like, are you in the building, like, what's going on? Like, it's so much stuff that they take into account when just making that big decision, because that's going to be the face of your program. Is the face of your program going to bring a positive light to you all? That's a huge question. And it's not just football skill. It's everything. It's whether they're good in school. It's whether you're, making sure that you're in the right places at the right time. Do you know what you're doing? Do you know all the checks? Do you know the offense? It's going to be based on, yes, obviously football talent is a huge thing, but it's also mentality. How good are you under pressure? How
Mhm.
good are you during these certain situations where you're put in during camp, where you're supposed to lose? Can you find success in that? Or if you fail, can you figure out what went wrong and be able to be successful even though it's skewed against you?
Mhm.
So it's so many different factors that go into choosing a starter, and that's any position. But
Okay.
quarterback is definitely the most crucial. And so I say all that to say it is the coach's decision at the end of the day, but they are watching the interactions of the players, of the staff, of these people, depending on, what's going on, what could happen, what kind of scheme they have, what kind of, there's so many different factors.
Right. Yeah.
And so, like, I'd say it's a coach's decision, but it's a combination of both.
Interesting. Yeah, I think especially someone like Coach Prime, who he was dealing with health issues and wasn't really able to be as hands-on this offseason. He shows up, and I feel like he's probably watching the quarterback battle closely. I think a lot of people forget, and maybe even not even know this. He was like an offensive coordinator for Shador in high school, so like
Hmm.
he knows his way around an offense. He played some offense back in the day, and I think he's watching that really closely. And I think it'll be a tough decision. I would be willing to bet money that whatever the initial decision is won't be the final decision. I feel like that's sort of like football is the one sport, specifically football, where I would pay money, a lot of money, um, to see if there's ever going to be a starting lineup that is the same from week 1 to week 12. Like, just
Yeah,
personnel wise, things change. Like, guys get momentum, guys get hurt. Like, it's never the same
it's
from week
never be
1
the
to week
same.
12.
No,
Yeah.
it can never
So
be
I
the
think
same.
it'll be a tough decision for Coach Prime, and we're split on it. So maybe we'll have to get a little wager going on that. Of course, maybe when I come down to Florida next time, you can give me some better weather. Good Lord, Jordan.
Man, oh my gosh, when I tell you it's so hot down here, 100, it was 100 degrees outside yesterday. I started walking and my flip-flops melted by the time I got to the car. Like, it was
It's
bad.
too
Like,
much. It's too
it's
much.
crazy right now. Like,
We did a couple Locked On Buffs episodes for Miami, and I was sunburned in both of them because I was struggling. I was sunburned in both of them. I was like, please don't mind the redness. I know I'm pasty, but I'm normally not red. So, Jordan, I appreciate you hopping on. Tell the people where they could find you, what you're working on, and hopefully we'll see more of you this season.
Of course, man. I plan on coming out to the Georgia Tech and Colorado game, covering them. Once
Nice.
again, I'm working with Athlon. I haven't been posting as much recently because I was training. I had a football showcase recently.
Mhm.
Ended up going to that, and so that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, X, not Twitter,
whatever's
uh,
good.
TikTok, anything like that.
Mhm.
Just look up my name and it should pop up there. Instagram JDominic42, Twitter JDominic16, TikTok FGOG_JD42. And yeah, man, I appreciate it. Go Buffs and Sko Buffs.
Yeah,
Forgot
gotta
it,
get it right.
Sko Buffs.
Gotta get it
And
right.
hopefully I see everybody at the game. Georgia
Mhm.
Tech versus Colorado. I might be wearing a Colorado shirt in the front and Georgia Tech in the back.
There we go. You're like one of those moms who has a son on the team,
Man,
who
I'm
has two
telling
sons.
you.
You're a mom now. That'll be awesome. I hope you enjoy your reunion with both programs, and
Man,
you
that'll
guys
be
know where to
great.
find us over here at Locked On Buffs, and we'll make sure to have Jordan pop on more and more, so that way he can give us more insight. Jordan, appreciate you, and I'll see the rest of you guys tomorrow.
So appreciate it.